let's head to Baton Rouge for our what to watch for presented by Sling Game. Alabama at LSU. I'm acting like this is the appetizer to the main course in Athens. It's actually the game that comes on after that. But I am fascinated by this game because while LSU has not won in Baton Rouge since 2010, there have been some pretty close games. LSU has played Alabama tough when it's not supposed to. It feels like this is a time it is supposed to play Alabama tough. Yet Alabama is almost a 2-touchdown favorite.
I'm laying the points here.
Really?
I'm not convinced that LSU is good now. I'm not saying they're bad, but like it's kind of very similar to the feeling that you get with Clemson, I think, where you watch the games and like they have long spurts of offensive ineptitude. You know, it's like they only scored 13 points against Tennessee, and it's like, is that all fixed now? Jaden Daniels is just confident and can throw really well in 2 weeks. Like they're playing Bama
a
this
lot
weekend.
Better.
No, I know, but is it fixed?
Jaden Daniels had.
Because if it's not fixed, this is when it's not when it becomes apparent that it's not fixed. And I know it's on the road and it's in Death Valley, and of course you're like clinging to the memories of how awesome this game always is, and I'm sure it's going to be crazy this weekend because LSU, I guess, we got a lot of comments saying that if LSU wins out, that they could be in the playoff, right? And they should have been in our list of 13 potentially.
They would be the first 2-loss team to do it.
Yes, but like technically speaking, if they were to beat Alabama and then beat Georgia or Tennessee at the end of the year, you might find a way to. I mean, the SEC champion's going to go. Yeah,
if they're a 2-loss SEC champ, they're in.
So if that happens, then I guess the list of 13 teams that could make it should have been 14. But like, I just don't know when the perspective of LSU changed from, oh my God, there's a lot of issues with this team to they could make the playoff. Like it happened like that. Like
I'll tell you when it happened. It happened when the offense looked better against Florida and against Ole Miss. Now, we could find out.
Say that again out loud.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Florida's defense and Ole Miss's defense should not give you any confidence whatsoever. And so a breakout performance against those two defenses maybe shouldn't give you any confidence either. But I will point out that has been steady incremental improvement. And sometimes you just need to see something work to figure out how things should work together. Because remember, new quarterback in Jaden Daniels, new offensive play caller in Mike Denbrock, some new players. This is not a group that was playing together for years. This is a group that is still trying to learn each other. So
there are two flip sides to this, though.
Mm-hmm.
One is how fractured is Alabama too, right? How fractured is it really? And then second of all, are you going to buy into the Death Valley stuff, like the SEC?
Well, Alabama's played and that's where I was going to say they've played well there, although they have struggled in true road environments the last couple of years. Like that's where we've seen, again, Tennessee and Texas this year, all the penalties. You've seen them get rattled, but they have played well in Death Valley. Here's an interesting thing that I keep coming back to, because I think if LSU plays Florida State again this week, that game goes differently, right? Are we at least in agreement on that?
Yes, I think LSU would beat Florida State if they played now.
Well, if they could take an extra point, they would have beaten them the first time.
Well, that gets to my second point. My second point is LSU's special teams still needs to play well to have a chance in this game, because like to me, and I know it sounds simplistic, but again, Alabama's had some really bad penalties and just mistakes in their biggest games this season. Bryce Young has been a magician and has saved them. And actually, this goes back to last season, right? But they wouldn't have been close against Tennessee. They would not have beat Texas if you didn't have like that Bryce Young magic. LSU's had some really terrible special teams gaffes in their losses this year. If they clean that up, Alabama doesn't have a million penalties, then I think we get a good game. Like, we want this to be a really good game. You're talking about like the types of historic games we've had in Alabama LSU. But I think those are keys for both of them to win the game. And certainly for LSU to keep it close. You cannot be making those types of mistakes like they did against Tennessee when Tennessee was then just able to run through them. I'll also say that the committee had more respect for LSU and also changed the idea of like, are they a playoff team? I think for a lot of people by putting them at 10. That was 5 spots higher than they were ranked in the AP poll. So that creates a top 10 win for Tennessee. Also a top 10 matchup now. So then, I think the way that they talked about LSU also possibly changes people's perceptions a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know why perceptions needed to be changed. Like in 2017, it's the same story. If Auburn had won the SEC, they were going to be.
I just think about I think like we saw them getting better. Like this is a team. This is one where for whatever we can talk about fit with Brian Kelly. Like he's a good coach and the team gets better. But I just think in terms of like the playoff conversation, everything is ramped up since we've gotten rankings. Like that's just naturally going to change the conversation.
Yeah, and
Cam just said that. Our producer Cam Molina just said Bama is 5-0 in Baton Rouge since 2010.
Yeah, I was at all but one of those, and a couple of them were pretty close.
And Nick Terry here saying that number seems about right. Wondering if you should buy a point and take the Tigers at 14.5. And like I've learned buying points.
Don't buy points.
Buying points makes you feel good before the bet. You got an extra score in there, and it feels great. But it's like if 13.5 is wrong, it's going to be really wrong. And I think over time, if you make a habit of buying points over the course of a season, the amount of juice that you're laying outweighs how much you might lose in a single bet by losing by the hook.
So Jackson Carney on the YouTube feed says the fit thing is so tired. Brian Kelly's very well liked here. That's what Nicole was saying. We've covered this a million times on the show. If you win, you fit. That's all there is to it. It's not complicated.